Freddy's back, Nancy's back, but best of all, Wes is back. Of course, I'm talking about 1987's A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome for tuning in to another episode here at Figure Out Films. I'm your host, as always, Chris. And like I said, today we are talking more Nightmare on Elm Street, this time with part 3, The Dream Warriors. I'm super excited to talk about this one because I think this is a fan favorite for a lot of people. I just recently rewatched it, and honestly, my love for this movie just got rejuvenated. Truly one of the best horror sequels. I know I said that with the second movie last time, personal favorite, but I think unbiased, part 3 might be one of the best horror movie sequels. Well, we're talking about the Mount Rushmore of horror sequels. We're talking about Friday the 13th Part 2. We're talking Friday the 13th Part 4. We're talking about Halloween 2, 3, and one of my personal favorites is Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
No, but all jokes aside, seriously, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors came out in 1987, and it blew up. I mean, when you put Wes Craven in as a writer for this movie to come back after the second movie didn't do so well with critics, the third one was highly anticipated. $4 million budget, made $44 million. I mean, oh my gosh, New Line Cinema was knocking this franchise out of the park. And then we get the first directorial debut from the Dreamscape writer Chuck Russell, who would go on to do awesome other great horror movies like the 1988 remake, The Blob, and then of course you get one of the underrated Arnold Schwarzenegger movies in Eraser in 1996. But one of the best things is, as well, is that we're in a new environment. We're away from the house on Elm Street where Nancy was in the first movie, where Jesse lived in the second movie, and now we're introduced to a very young Patricia Arquette who has these new dream powers. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited to talk about this movie because I think it does a lot of things right, and it brings this franchise to a fresh new area, which is people having powers in their dreams, because let's be honest, not all of us are having wet dreams, because I think one of the best things that this franchise could do is introduce this concept of dream powers, which is great because, I mean, let's be honest, we're not all like me having wet dreams, but we're also going to be thinking about ourselves being different types of things in our dreams, whether it's like, thinking we're superheroes, we have superpowers, or we have a cooler job, or we have a successful YouTube channel like Figure Out Films does. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. But of course, you know, Wes Craven coming back and really fixing the lore of these movies with this film really cements itself in the entire franchise as one of the greats, and as well, it kind of sets the standard for the sequels that follow on after. We get introduced to Patricia Arquette's character as Kristen, and honestly, she's a great protagonist in this movie. Kristen has the ability to pull people into her dreams as well, and then she's unfortunately sent into a psychiatric ward for at-risk youth who are suffering from sorts of disorders or addictions and anything of that nature, and they're all being haunted as the last generation of the Elm Street kids by Freddy Kruger. Not only are they dealing with issues and scary things from the real world, but also now from the dream world with Freddy, of course. And when Kristen gets here, you know, I love this cast of characters. They bring her in open-armed. Of course, it's like, you know, they all care for each other. But what's even better is that Heather Langenkamp comes back as Nancy, as their doctor to heal them or to help them through this journey of recovery, and then realizing that she needs to help these kids survive Freddy Krueger like she did prior to. And I think that's great. You bring a legacy character in and you bring them to kind of help with a new generation of not only actors, but like with characters in these movies as well. What's another great thing about this movie is, of course, Freddy Krueger. In this movie, he kind of mixes the two things from the previous two movies. He kind of introduces like this comical aspect that was in the first movie. Again, not saying he was all laughs in the first one, but he definitely was more so compared to the second movie. In the second movie, he's a lot more vicious, violent, and scary. And in this third movie, he gets the right blend of both of those two into this final movie. And I'm not going to lie, right off the bat, Freddy sets the stage because the kills in this movie, they're just so great. They're so imaginative and iconic. I would maybe say that they're some of the best in the entire franchise. And the way he's terrorizing these kids is kind of deliciously enjoyable to watch, but also, you know, when you think about it, like, man, that's really fucked up that the kids are dying that way. But I also love every character in this movie. And when each character dies, you feel for that character, but you also really enjoy how Freddy is terrorizing him. It's very conflicting. But like I said, the characters in the movie are great. You get a Nurse Ratched ripoff in this movie. You get another doctor who's here who really wants to care about the kids and helps Nancy in kind of understanding that Freddy Krueger is this this being that's terrorizing the kids, and also finds more lore about the character of Freddy Krueger and where he came from. And we find a nun who has a suspicious connections to Freddy Krueger. John Saxon's back, of course, baby, and then a very young, a very cool Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. This movie's cast is stacked, and not only that, but its score is stacked with the Dream Warriors from Dokken, one of the coolest things where you can just go, Dream Warriors! Like, oh man, like, I mean, do you not hum that to yourself, or is that just me? This movie is also, though, very 80s. I mean, from styles and haircuts, Dungeons and Dragons, to to the music, to the fashion statements. I mean, this is such an 80s movie, and I love it. It's like, what would happen if you blended like those teen comedies with like the teen slashers? That's the Dream Warriors. It's one of the weirdest but coolest names at the same time. It's a very weird blend. This movie's weird. It blends so many different things so well. I mean, you even get a snake worm like Freddy Krueger in one aspect where he's eating Patricia Arquette Kristen from the legs all the way up, pause, and then also we get him as a little puppet as well, puppeteering one of the kids to their death through pulling their strings through their veins. Holy shit, that is an insane sequence. You also get to see Freddy Krueger shirtless for the first time in this movie, and honestly, it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Honestly, when he lifts up his shirt and he shows that it's the different souls of people he's killed on Elm Street. Very cool stuff there. But this movie is really just about kids in this ward having to survive Freddy Krueger, but given the strength through friendship and through Nancy, giving them the support and helping them realize that they can use their powers to defeat Freddy Krueger once and for all, and then finding out that you can't really beat Freddy in the dream world, but you have to beat Freddy in the real world, which Nancy once did by pulling him back into the real world to kill him and then forgetting about his dumb ass. But in this movie, we find out that her father, John Saxon, in this movie, who got demoted from a police officer to a security officer, which you see on his uniform, you find out that they're having a strange relationship now after the events of the first movie, rightfully so, and then that he reveals that they never buried him properly. They threw Freddy Krueger's remains under a Corvette's hood that no one would ever find in a junkyard. The fact that they were still there was like, okay, it's kind of strange. But anyway, we realized they need to give him a proper burial. We need to put him to rest in peace, as the Undertaker would say. And then you get a really cool kind of a la Jason the Argonauts, where you get Freddy Krueger's skeleton fighting John Saxon's character in the movie in that stop motion style, which is really fun to see. In this movie, ultimately, is just trying to show off that the technical abilities of what horror movies could be in this movie. There's a lot of great graphics. There's a lot of practical effects. There's stop motion in this. This movie really has a lot of directing chops, and I have to give credit to Chuck Russell. And actually, in the bonus features, you find out from Robert Englund that Chuck Russell was kind of a hard ass on set, and that he demanded a lot of work from the actors, and he was trying to do a lot of cutting edge directing in this movie. So to have all these great things in that small budget of $4 million is really an achievement in itself, and it's why this movie cements itself as one of the best in the franchise, and honestly, I think one of the best horror movies, period, in the 80s. If you think about some of the best horror movies, I think you have to throw Dream Warriors up there. Do I dare say it's up there with the original? You get Wes Craven to come back. He closes the door on the franchise in a great, believable way. And honestly, this movie, I know I've said it back-to-back times, I've had problems with these movies and their endings. The third movie knows how to end the movie right. I absolutely love how this movie ends. I like the ending to this. This is the first in the franchise that got its ending right. So I got to give the Dream Warriors that as well. You get some awesome hairstyles. I love seeing the kids in the dream world trying to show off their dream sonas. You know, Kincaid's obviously the strong guy. You get a magician wizard. You get a horny teenager, and then you also get, I don't know if you call Taryn just like I don't care. I mean, she says in this world, I'm bad and beautiful. Like, I don't know what you call that. I mean, she is badass, I'm not gonna lie. Terrifying death. But I don't know what you call that. But this movie does do a great job of getting the characters to be believable and likable, and then also expands the lore while also closing the lid on it and not going too crazy. Honestly, a lot of stuff is not that crazy for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It doesn't go over the top. It's not goofy and silly. It's very scary. It's a very dark comedy type of horror movie. And then at the same time, it's very gory. I mean, this movie does not, shed any expense on the gore and on the effects of Freddy Krueger in this movie. So I do really enjoy that. Where was the first time you saw A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's the best sequel? I'd like to see people's thoughts down in the comments below. And then get ready for how we're going to wrap up this franchise reviews. I'm actually going to change it up. Now that we did the first 3 trilogies, I'm going to go ahead and rank the last movies with these first 3 in the next video. But that's going to do us all here for Dream Warriors. What were your thoughts on seeing this movie? Have you seen it before? I'd love to hear your stories and your thoughts down below in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the previous one we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, where we're talking about other Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and we're going to do a ranking pretty soon, so get ready for that. Don't forget to check out our other episodes as well. My name is Chris here at Figure Out Films, and remember, if you're not watching the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, I'll see you next time.